How many people here think the CEO should be more involved and liable for security? Awesome. So this is the same result that we've been seeing in some other talks. This is where I make a bunch of nice people not like me for a little bit. I don't actually agree with that. I don't agree with that for one simple reason. This problem statement, secure more with less, isn't unique to security or IT. This is the same problem every business leader in your organization has. Do more with less, show continuous improvement, drive out costs through the organization, and show value. Every other business unit president has to do the same thing. This isn't unique to us. We all have the challenge. We're all trying to do more with less. And how do we do it? And I found my challenge first was language. I was not communicating effectively. And I realized this when I went on a plant tour with my CEO. He was a trained accountant. Worked his way up, great guy, really respect him, but he never worked a day on the floor. He didn't, he never operated a press. And I'd go out with a plant visit, and I would watch him walk up to an operator and talk to the operator exactly about what was going on, get right to the root of the problem, and have a great conversation with this guy. And I'm just like, how, you go to this plant twice a year. How is it that you're able to walk up to this person, immediately know what's going on, and talk to them about what's relevant? And he's like, well, it's simple. Before I go out to talk to any of the people, there's this board they have. It's called a Gimbal Board. I walk up to that, and I can see all the flow that's going through the plant. I can see what happened on first shift, second shift, third shift. I can see where things are red. And I see which red. I see which part of the plant floor is red. And I walk up to that operator, and I ask him how things are going. How's he feel? How's he doing today? Where's the struggles at? So I was like, oh my goodness. As someone in IT, I would think that I'm closer to be able to talk to an accountant than someone on the plant floor. And I realized the person on the plant floor actually learned how to better communicate their problems to senior leadership than I did. So I was like, all right, we've got to change this. So let's look at metrics. And this is why metrics are important. That's what the person on the shop floor was able to do, is they distilled down all the complexities of their working on into simple red, green, and yellow. And they can go, I want to go talk to this person about what's happening, and I want to help them. So I started to look at the business world, and I started to realize that the CFO and the VP of marketing and the president of the different lines of business, they all communicated their progress, their status, and their effectiveness within their business units by balance sheet. Basically, how are they doing? How are they operating? What's their free cash flow? What's their days outstanding? What's their new customer line? What's that thing called? The pipeline of all the new stuff coming in, and what's the new innovations happening? And I'm like, they're all reporting what they're doing in a standard way. That's all defined by GAAP, generally accepted accounting principles. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. So I looked at what IT was doing. And I looked at IT metrics. And I started to see, all right, well, these are good metrics. And the thing that kind of caught my attention was these metrics are kind of actionable. When these turn red, someone gets a page at 2 in the morning and has to do something. And an action is taken. It goes back to green. And I was like, well, okay, these aren't in the same simplistic way, but as one business president taught me how to read a balance sheet, he's like, I don't know what all this stuff means either. I just look down and I go, bracket's bad. And then I ask him, what's this line here with the bracket? And then I sound like I immediately dug into all their books. No, I just knew brackets were bad. Red is bad. Okay, I'm like, all right, I'm starting to understand this. I don't have to be so complicated. I don't have to have this big GRC conversation about security. I don't have to try to make this complicated. I got to make it simpler. So, and I looked at security metrics. Oh, they're god awful. They're way too broad. Does my CEO care how many spam messages we blocked? Not at all. And is that an actionable metric? If I had spam double from one month to another, at 2 in the morning, and you got a page, is there anything you could actually do about it to affect that metric? No, so then why would I care? yeah, it's good to have awareness of what's your threat surface and how much people are coming in, and yeah, that's a nice, what's the temperature of the room, but you can't really do much about it to affect it. So is it really worth getting people to track it? So there's a book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, written by Dr. Stephen Covey. It's an excellent book. I've read it now 2 or 3 times, and it's interesting. I've read it in different phases of my life, and every time I read it, I kind of take away something different from it. But one of the things that's always stuck with me is begin with the end of month. So I always try to fully articulate what the problem statement is. What is it that I'm trying to achieve? What is it the stakeholders are trying to achieve? And what does the end result look like? Because if I don't know what the end result looks like, I'm not going to be able to articulate that to others and get people behind us to want to move that direction. So I kind of put together an outline of what I wanted to do and where I wanted to go. And something I've been starting to do with more of my talks, I go to like 6 conferences a year. I love this stuff. I love this community. I enjoy it so much. But I've noticed that a lot of great people will get up and share their ideas, but they don't always share the results. They don't always share the proof. And I'm now trying to hold myself to a standard of, if I'm going to talk about it, I'm going to share the results, good or bad. So what I do is whenever I join a new organization, I try to baseline it. And I use a tool called BitSight. And this is a BitSight score sheet. It's very simplistic. It's really good for like M&A activities because you only have so much time to do your diligence. You can run this on someone and get an idea of like what they're doing. You can look at vendors. There's a lot of great use cases for it, but I'm not here to sell BitSight. I kind of want to show you that I was at 630, which is good. And the nice thing about the way this is it tells you average, intermediate, and basic. So it kind of tells your leadership, are you leading or lagging in that area? Now I was 630, I was doing okay. We had some problems. And you can see here some of the big events we're tracking, and then some of the diligence stuff. We have SSP records in place, Power SSL certificates. I mean, geez, the last 2 years, SSL certificates have been falling like every day. We're doing something with certificates. It's terrible. But we're now tracking this. Some open ports, DNSSEC, application security. These are very basic, simplistic things. And this is all reported from the outside world. So basically, if one of my machines calls out and gets to a honeypot or gets to like, because they'll take down like the, what are they, like botnets. If they take down a botnet, they turn it into like a tar pit so they can monitor it and they know, okay, well your IP went to a known botnet IP range because they would get a takedown. So this kind of tracks that. So there's nothing up here that you can really change internally. This is all stuff that phoned outside of your organization. So it's proof positive that something bad was talking out. And I wanted to make more progress on this. So I want to show you, though, that through providing good leadership, articulating the problem, looking at my culture, implementing metrics, and becoming a metric-driven organization that is now our culture, we moved this score from 630 to 770. This is part of how Six Sigma works. Is you measure a baseline, based on the data, you make a hypothesis of, if I do these things, I should get this result. You do those things, and then you measure again, and then you readjust. It's the do, check, act, right? What is it, the do, plan, check, act, or something? I'm messing it up. But it's a really good thing. Hey, Adrian.
I'm just making sure it's working.
Okay. I got the mic this time. So I wanted to show this to be like, if you take the time to understand your problem in your organization, you articulate it, you get the stakeholders, you drive metrics, you get everyone focused on a small set of things, you can drive change. You will see tangible results. So start small. That's what I did. I just started with Excel. Grabbed a couple of things, and this is also, this isn't my idea. Actually, nothing you'll ever hear me talk about is my own idea. Everything I ever do or say is stolen. Steal stuff for yourself and take credit. It's awesome. So There's a gentleman, Alan Poller. He is now the director of the SANS organization. So anybody, SANS cert, SANS, it's amazing. So Alan Poller helped run security for the State Department. And the State Department's security was tough because every embassy, the person who's at that embassy that runs it, is appointed by the President of the United States. It's kind of hard to tell that guy what to do, and it's even harder to tell his IT guy what to do. So it's like a loose confederation of states, and it's really hard to kind of corral them all together. And Alan was talking to his friend over at the DoD. DoD is a very structured, top-down organization. You know, we say to do it, so go do it. And he was looking at what they were doing and how they were getting security done. And he realized his culture, his makeup of how his organization wasn't wrong. It was right for that organization. But the way that the DoD was doing this top-down security thing wasn't ever going to work for him. So, started small, started simple. He only grabbed 3 metrics. He put out a tenable Nessus scanner, so it's cheap. Now, I'm not promoting, any scanner will work, anything to grab some vulnerabilities. And then Microsoft Active Directory, or LDAP, or something just to know what's going on with your accounts, permissions, lockouts. And then it's like System Center. If you have something that's reporting in, like what's the health and status of your systems, what's the current patch levels, deployment, and that also helps with inventory. So if any of you are familiar with SANS first, the 20 critical controls, number 1 is you got to know your environment. You've got to inventory it. That's where something like SCCM, or even, if you don't have SCCM, even Active Directory, because every machine in Active Directory's got a member machine ID. So you can even start IDing there. So you start small. This is an example of iPost. This is what Alan Poller built for the State Department. It's a simple scorecard, and he did it by every location, and he gave them simple ratings, and he put down what are their common vulnerabilities, and what he also did, which I thought was really interesting, is he didn't just tell them where they had their problems, he also ranked it by size, because he would start to go down here with AD accounts. How many users and how many computers? I'll sometimes talk to a site admin, and they're not even sure how many users and computers they have at their location. They're not even sure what's in their inventory. I mean, it sounds so basic, but it actually has a profound impact of once you really know what you're trying to do and what you're trying to control. This is a really good scorecard. There's a lot of examples of good scorecards out there. But I wanted to kind of then, so what I like to do is we articulate the problem, we show what the sense of urgency is, we talk about where we want to go, we show examples of if it's done, these are the results you get, and now I've shown you a result of someone who built it. And their results were outstanding. In fact, the State Department threw this card, and one of the things he did that was really innovating, and this is from my leadership talk that I gave yesterday, is he set out to make heroes, not zeros. And I'll tell you, when I first got into the security role, I was so excited to drop a ream of paper on the server, the sysadmin's desk, and say, these are all the problems you have, you suck at your job, go fix them. I was like, victorious! I found all the problems in the company. I am the best security person ever. And they didn't work on them at all. It was terrible. Yes, sir?
What was that scorecard?
Oh, the scorecard was iPost. iPost, it's the United States State Department, iPost by Alan Poller. He's given this talk at SANS. It's up on there. And the other person to talk to, so James at SANS, he helped write this presentation. He's actually the instructor for the 20 critical controls. He's got a lot of great stuff on his website. He's got a great blog. All this information, you can find a ton of stuff out there. So, back to where I was going with heroes and zeros. So, you find all the problems, you put together this report, and you tell them how they suck. And I didn't really work on it. Well, one of the things he did with his scorecard that I've now done with mine is, the first time you run the scorecard, it's going to look terrible. I mean, really, every time you run a Nessus scanner, or any type of scanner, you come back with more results, and you're like, I didn't think numbers got that big. And if you go tell someone that, it's really defeating. But if you boil it down to, what are the criticals? And what are the criticals that matter to this system? Because not all criticals are really critical for that system, depending on what its makeup is or where it's at in the organization. and then you give them an obtainable action, right? So here's your goal, and you make sure it's obtainable. They achieve that goal, and then you tell their manager how great they are and how they got an A. And then you give them a report the next month, and you make it a little bit higher. Because they've started with an A, and they've gotten praise, they will fight like hell to keep the A. But if you start them off with an F, and you start them off with telling them you have to fix every problem in the world and it's all their fault, they're already defeated. They've already lost. Why do they want to continue moving forward? So this was a mistake that I really, I still sometimes fall into this trap, because in security, we find a lot of bad things. And we know that this is putting the organization at risk. And we want to take immediate action, and we want to resolve it quickly and fast. And sometimes when you go to the group and you try to deliver this negative news, and you're trying to, just like you have to do it, well, the problem is they have 3 other people coming over to them telling them they have to do other stuff. And there's other projects, and there's other systems. And now they're trying to balance that. So this kind of goes back to that leadership talk of, you want to go to them, and you want to be positive, and you want to help them, and you want to come up with a balanced approach on how you're going to achieve it. Because at the end of the day, eliminating the problem is the most important thing. How it gets done, kind of when it gets done, the timeline, you have to be a little flexible, but if you get it done, that's the most important thing, and it's better to spend your time working towards it than fighting with someone to even get started. So that's a good takeaway from that slide there. So foundation. I've got some bigger organizational stuff up here, like, create a security charter, get a steering committee, get organizational approval, inventory your assets. This stuff is a little heady. And when I was at a bigger organization, and it was a little more bureaucracy, those were some of the things that I needed to do to get started and to kind of get more grounded, right? I needed that to kind of legitimize it. But I've seen now, again, you always have to adjust your plan based on culture. Culture will eat strategy every day. So if you're in a smaller organization or you're in a more fluid organization, don't get caught up in trying to create some of those things. Just get started. And then once you get moving, then you can try to legitimize it and get it a little more ingrained as well. So the reason that I have those there is when I set out to build this, I wasn't trying to build this for me. I was trying to build this for the company that would be there and last past me. Because I want to move on. I'm not going to probably be with any company very long. So I want to make sure when I do something, I'm able to build it and it's sustainable and it will last past my tenure. So that's why I had those kind of foundational goals. But have your focus here. Just get started with Active Directory, help desk tickets. Okay, this one, I think because I came up through the help desk and I spent too many years at that desk, I kind of hate help desk. I hate tickets. Right? I learned a ton. I'm grateful for the experience. But I was undervaluing the amount of amazing knowledge that was coming through the help desk tickets. If someone is willing to pick up the phone and take 5 minutes to tell someone their problem, to report a ticket, that really matters. And you've got to take it seriously. And this is how your organization talks back to you. And with security, I see a lot of peers spending a lot of time subscribing to threat feeds and paying for security analytics and data, and you're getting the JSACs from InfoGuard, and you're a part of ISACs for your different industries, and you're getting all this telemetry from what's happening out in the world. And it's all good stuff. But when was the last time you really sat down and dug through your own help desk ticket metrics to understand what are the problems within your organization, and not just always looking at how everyone else is getting attacked? This will tell you where you need to put your attention. Your users are telling you where their pain is. If you focus here, you will get continuous improvement and show value to your leadership. Focus on your help desk tickets. SCCM for inventory, And then like a Tenable or a Qualys or a Nessus or a Rapid7, they're all awesome scanners. But the scanner is only as good as the remediation report that comes out of it and how you deliver it. I kept thinking if I hit print or emailed the report to someone, I did my job. And then I realized that was actually me preventing vulnerabilities from getting fixed. You need to take care with how you work the remediations that you get from this. So those are your 4 data sources you get started with. So this is the part of the presentation where you realize you came to a metrics talk, and I actually slipped in a whole thing's about culture. Because if you just do metrics for metrics' sake, you'll end up spending a lot of time in Excel building reports that people just glance at. And that's no good for anybody. You've got to get this embedded into your teams and at all levels of your organization. So the first thing you've got to do is you've got to create a sense of urgency. You've got to get other people to realize you're not making measurable progress. Everyone's spending a lot of time working, but are you really working on the right things, and are you delivering results? Then you need to find a few people that want to kind of collaborate with you, that agree, and these are people who are influencers. And this is something too that I've been learning. Not all influencers are senior leadership. You all know that there are a couple of site admins or network admins or sysadmins that their voice can sway a group, sway a room. You need to get them on your side. You need to get the people who kind of can carry some sway with some groups to, yeah, I kind of agree. Maybe we should do some metrics. We should kind of move this forward. Now you've got a coalition. And you don't want to build and just deliver it to them. Because from the leadership presentation yesterday, we talked about we got to give them room to add their egg. They have to be able to make it feel like it's theirs too. Let them collaborate with you. Build it together. Then it's roadshow time. You got to take this thing on the road. You've got to start, getting it out there. You've got to communicate it to everyone. Then you start to remove obstacles for people. You help them get going. And you build the project in a way to where there's going to be small little wins. So that way people can start to see progress and they can see it building. And you just started to let it go. And you've got to be thinking, how are you going to step away and who's going to take charge? Because you don't want to have to keep the thing going forever. If you're the only one pushing it, it's not really sustainable. You need to make sure other people are moving this forward as well. So this is a Gimbal Board. This is a simple outline of a Gimbal Board. This is a philosophy developed by Deming and Peter Drucker. Deming went over to Japan after World War II to help rebuild their automotive industry. The Gimbal Board is the place of the way. This is where you find where your problems are. This is how my CEO could walk into a plant floor he goes to twice a year and know exactly what's going on and go talk to somebody with knowledge and intelligence about an issue. Meanwhile, my CEO can't talk to me with the same level of engagement and knowledge on security. So I'm like, all right, I need one of these boards. So I built it. Now, when I started it, it was small. I started inside my office. And like I was saying, I don't want to be the only one doing this. And I'm not building it for me, building it for the organization. So I went to all the teams in IT. How do we get this thing going? And we had executive CIOs behind it. We had other people in IT behind it. So now we started building this out for the whole department. And it goes on the outside of the wall. So now everyone walking by sees it. That's very powerful. Everyone gets to see your good and your bad and what you're focused on. Just moving your metrics outside so everyone sees them, that's a very powerful effect. It's very profound. Then what you do is every week you do a 15 minute standing meeting in the hallway at the board. People take turns presenting their areas. They talk, and they only talk about what's red. And then anything that's red, they have to have, there's these root cause analysis to talk about why it's red. And then there's a Kaizen newspaper that talks about the actions that are going to be taken to remediate that. So it's very clear. It's very simple. And you invite everybody. You invite people from other departments. You invite the CFO. You invite the CEO. You'll be surprised how often they'll show up for 15 minutes on Friday morning at 10 a.m. to talk about your board. And the things they'll ask about are really engaging. And it also gets everyone in IT now more connected. I remember we were rolling out Windows 7 globally. And our CEO was asking about it. And his migration went well. And he visited one of our locations in Europe. And he asked them how it was going. And he came back and he told us, he's like, hey, we're so impressed with you guys. You had great communication. It went really smooth. I'll tell you, that team, they heard that right from the CEO of what the difference it was to move, how smooth it was, how well thought out it was. They were on cloud 9 for like a week, right? That's the kind of level of engagement that you want. Everybody wants to feel that their job matters and has an impact, and they can see how they're helping the organization. This simple board was how everyone in IT was able to show their job, link their job back to the company. They could see how their job had value, had impact, and was really helping others. So I'm going to go back all the way back to the first slide. I keep going back and forth. You guys are going to get dizzy. Where was it? Right here. This was a slide. I've rewrote this one first slide more than anything else. And this bottom bullet point here. Are your projects improving the daily jobs of end users? This is something that I couldn't answer yes to. And, you know, in IT and security, I hate to say it, there's not a lot of projects that we do that really positively impact our users. But now, I try to make sure I've got 1 or 2 projects every year that it helps them through collaboration. Maybe it's single sign-on. You know, there's different things we can do to help save their time, make things a little bit easier. You want to be thinking about that. Is there at least one thing you're doing this year that's going to help those end users? It really matters. It really makes it personal. And that's where, when I started doing this, I started to realize it started to make the projects we were working on and the stuff we were doing a little more personal. And then one of the desktop manager, he started to do a weekly call on the tickets. And we started to talk as a team about every ticket. We started to know what the problems were, even people that were outside of them. That knowledge and telemetry, and then as a team, because now you've got network managers and system admins and support desk people all talking about this printer problem at this location. We became so much closer to what our users' pain were, what was going on, and it would change small decisions we were making. So now you can start to see something as simple as some metrics started to really change the culture and how we worked as a team and what our impact as IT was on the company. And it helped us now tell our story to the company because the company doesn't always know what IT is doing. We're not good at always sharing that. The only time they know something with IT is when the system's down. The other business units, they get patted on the back when they do something good because someone can see it on their balance sheet. We needed a balance sheet, and we needed some executive to be able to go down and be like, oh, I don't see any brackets. You guys are doing good. You want to have something so people can see you're doing good. This helps. Yes, sir?
How much different is that from the concept of the GRC tool?
None at all. The GRC tools are awesome. All these different tools, all the different ways, there are so many different ways to do this, and there's different things that are going to work for your organization. The core of this talk isn't really about metrics. It's about changing culture. You bring in a GRC tool, you spend $100,000 a year on that subscription, you get all the data feeds in it, and if you're the only person running that report, and you're only giving it to internal audit and enterprise risk management, did you change your culture? Did you get other people invested in where those metrics are going? Or are you just reporting statistics? And I'm not trying to be mean on the tools or those things, but I'll tell you, I did that. I spent money on tools. I spent time generating reports. And then I really realized that I was really only doing it for me. and I wasn't really making the good progress. And it wasn't until I started sharing it with everybody. So that's where you got to get them out there. Now, here are some of the examples of the tactical, like how I put it together, what were some of the metrics we were tracking, how we were doing it. And this is all in the slide deck. The slide deck's going to be made available to everybody. I've also got this on my LinkedIn profile. I've got all the other talks I've done on my LinkedIn profile, so you're welcome to get them there. Also, if anybody wants to talk, just shoot me an email. I'd be more than happy to set up a call with you. But what time is the talk? How much time do I have? 15 minutes. All right. So now, my last talk, we only end it with 3 minutes left, and I didn't get a chance to do any questions and answers, and this is my favorite part, and this is why I like to give talks, is I want to hear what you guys think. What are you guys working on? What's working? Where are your struggles? And more importantly, I would like you to voice what's going on in your world, not for me to hear it, but for everyone else in the audience to hear it, because we come to these events to network, and you want to make connections with people. And the only way to make a good connection with a person is to be vulnerable and to show where you have it, where you have a problem or a need, or to be able to say, I have a solution, I have an answer. And if a couple of people in the audience can connect up with a problem and an answer, that's my real hope. So, does anyone have anything they'd like to share about metrics or culture? Yes, sir.
Metrics is a core component of our security program, as well as the GRC program. I identify with exactly what you said. If it's only going to a couple of lines of business, you're wasting your money and your time, and you're not giving the company a whole service. Identifying all your recipients of the data and the contributors of the data should be, and obviously the stakeholders. So going across the organization at the leadership level, having representation across your board so that there is an actual strategic direction and roadmap, not just direction for this year, but what do you want it to look like in 2, 3, 4, 5 years from now, is really important because that keeps you out of the reactionary approach. And going down the wrong path with metrics, especially with a GRC, will destroy the future of the GRC program. I think a lot of people try to understand metrics, only understanding the numerator of the situation, though, and not understanding the denominator. You have to know the denominator as well to understand how big of percentages you really have in your overall issue. And then baselining it, showing, just as you mentioned at the very beginning, kind of the progress or the declining issues that you have, and bucketing it in a single manner. We use the ISO families, so that's how we really break it up. So understanding how we're doing in access management, understanding how we're doing it in information security management program, and so forth. So it makes it very comprehensive for the board level, but then there's also the manager level, the detail level. You get that kind of thing.
Really well said. Excellent. Does anyone have anything else? No one? All right, yes, sir.
Well, I'll say the opposite. I've been in situations where there are no metrics, so you don't know which direction you're going in or what the ultimate goal is. You really have no map or guidepost. On a personal level, it's also career effective. If you don't have anything that really helps you figure out what you should be working on, you may have one-on-ones with your manager and you may have top priorities, but it's nothing really that they can go and say, hey, I know what this person's doing, or I know what my team's doing, and so when it comes review time or comes for next priorities or the company comes for cost savings, what is your team doing? How can we prove that you're worth what we're paying you to do? Or let's see, can we expand your projects? We don't know what you do. So being able to not even communicate that will ultimately hurt you in the long run because you're sidelighting, you're pushed to the side, or maybe they look at your team and say, this is someplace where we can pare down.
Yeah. So in that situation, that was where, so for instance, I was in a new security role, and I worked my butt off for 1.5 years, And so what I did was I did no baselines. So I brought in a pen test. It didn't go so well. Worked my butt off for a year and a half. Brought in the same company, did the same pen test. I didn't do any better. That was the gut check. Oh no, I'm working like crazy, and I really didn't make a lot of progress. And did I really impact the company? And I realized that I was listening to all the noise out there. So my CFO was very interested in the cloud. CIO was really interested in bring your own device. And, I was chasing, and I was trying to build a GRC program before I even had the basics covered, right? I had all these fundamental problems, and I'm trying to build some, high in the sky, GRC system. I wasn't ready for it. I didn't have the fundamentals down. And I'm trying to cover all these vulnerabilities, and I was trying to fix vulnerabilities before I really made alliances with other teams. And then that was when I realized I was chasing other people's, what top security projects were, like what was on the cover of all the magazines. And I was trying to chase all those threat analysis. I was always worried about, well, this company got hacked with this, so we should be secure. We should be worried about it. And then I finally started to spend some time with my own help desk tickets. And I realized, we got a spam problem. We got a web filter problem. We got a Java problem. We got a Flash problem. We got a system reimaging problem. We're impacting users. And then I started to do a root cause analysis of why we're reimaging systems. And I started to see, well, maybe my patching there isn't as good as it should be. Maybe I'm not updating third-party patches as good as I should be. Maybe I'm not filtering stuff as well as I could be. And when I started to then recast my goals, and not being focused on what the industry said I should be doing. And I started to concentrate on what my users' pain was. Well, then it was easier to get other people behind me, because they could understand the why. They could understand, Bob's system got reimaged last week. Yeah, well, maybe we should do something about it. And I didn't go to people with an answer. I went to people with a question. How do we fix it? How can we work on this together? And then we started to impact. And then no one was questioning my job. And it was also interesting, no one was questioning the pen test scores. Because we made our users happier. And CIO knew we were actually a better organization. We were solving fundamental problems. And once we started to get the basics done, then we started making better progress on the pen test scores. Then we started to get better GRC. Then we started to get better overall risk awareness. But I had to start small. And the other thing that he made a good point about the roadmap, where you want to go 3 and 5 years. It's hard to do 3 and 5 year planning, but it's important. Now with your metrics, be a little more flexible. One of the things we would only pick metrics on things we were ready to make change on that year or 2 years. And once we hit a level of achievement, we drop the metric and we find another one. We made this as fluent as possible, and we made it as focused as possible. These were all around what were our top things, that everyone at the table agreed is the top thing, not just what I thought was the top thing. And we would change these. And we did. So we had our basic security slide. So for the Gimbal Board, it's called SQCD, and this is what they use out on the plants for in Six Sigma and Lean. S is usually safety. I made it security. And it works. I've even seen, there's another gentleman, Ed Pollock at the Steers Corporation. He does this too. He's an amazing, he has a great talk on this as well. He actually uses the safety cross, if any of you are familiar with manufacturing. He actually uses the safety cross to explain what's going on with his security metrics. It's brilliant. So get into security, kind of what's happening, what's the overall security posture, quality. This is our day-to-day operational stuff, help desk tickets. Are we closing tickets on time? Are we meeting SLAs? This is your operational SLA stuff. Are you getting the job done when you said you get it done? Delivery. This is projects. What's the status of projects? How are projects moving forward? Who's assigned to the project? What's the progress they're making? Where are their roadblocks? What is your project charter? What's really happening here? Basically project stuff. Costs. This one. This is a cool one. My organization was going through a bit of a downturn. We were trying to cut costs everywhere we could. And, so what happens, all the managers get into a room and try to figure out, where can we make cuts. Well, one of the things I thought was brilliant that we did was we took every one of our products, saw all of our hardware, software, services, renewals, put in a big spreadsheet, sorted it by date, and then we'd know when it was due, how much it cost, and then we built a heat map, and we presented it to everyone in IT. We basically asked them, okay, go down this list. Which products on here do you value? Which products on here do you use every day? Which products on here help you do what you do better? And we showed them the amount, because a lot of times, a lot of people in IT don't even know what some of the things cost. And it was amazing, some of the ideas that came out of it. One of the things was we had VPN and two-factor, and we were both up on renewal for both of them. They were pretty good costs. Now, as a company, I'm like, well, what are you guys doing? We can't not have VPN, can't not have two-factor. And one of the admins and one of the network guys were like, well, we could maybe go to Direct Connect with Microsoft, and we could stand up a PKI server and put a certificate in place, and we could actually have kind of transparent VPN with two-factor, and we don't have to renew these. I was just like, oh my God, that's awesome. But now they're part of that conversation. They're stack ranking their own vendors. They're thinking critically about what new technologies are in the environment that could maybe offset or do something differently. So letting people know the costs and where money's being spent and what things cost and when things are due, it has a profound impact. Make it public. I mean, it's not secret. People, understand your coverages. Make sure that you don't have one person that can only do one thing. Make sure you're doing cross-training. Make sure you know when the call schedules are. Make sure that you're balancing this stuff out. Make it public. Make it published. It lets everyone know. This is also where you feature awards and accomplishments and certifications, and everyone can see their progress and how they're growing and when they need to go to the next level, and you have the different tiers. It's not a secret. It's not a private conversation. Put it out there. It's transparent. Practical steps to get started. Really, just get started. Start small. Yes, sir.
So these are great. Now, how much of these do you bubble up to the board and to the senior executives that you don't have board report to?
So we got one slide, right? What it was is we didn't bubble almost any of this up. What we did instead is this is what the board saw. This. All because on the plant floor, right, they've got their Gimbal Board, they've got all their stuff, they're tracking all their stats. What does the plant manager report up? He reports up a simple balance sheet. Money in, money out. How much money did he spend on capital? How much money did he spend on operations? How many widgets did he get out? What was his productivity level? It's a simple line, right? And he just wants to know, is he leading or lagging compared to the other plants that are doing the same thing he's doing? That's all I want to show, right? The board doesn't need to know all the details. They just need to know, are we trending upwards? And then what we'll do is we'll feature a couple other big things. So like when we completed Windows 7, we had some really cool stats around how many legacy applications we retired. And we'll pick certain little things that are wins. But what we want to do is we're conveying what's happening with the organization, where we're going, or where we've got a problem. Okay, we failed that pen test again. We're still struggling. Java, it's killing us. Okay, this is what we're going to put into place. And I have Java, completely virtualized it, uninstalled it from every workstation in the environment, and we were an Oracle shop. No more viruses. These are more of the practical steps, how to get started. We've kind of covered this. Does anyone have any other questions or comments? I don't want to hold people too much longer. I think we're up at 11:30. All right, 1 minute left. Anybody else have any other questions? Awesome. Well, thank you. I hope this was helpful.